Before we left that night, something happened at the store. And looking back now, it should have been enough for us to give up on everything. The man was there, way too quiet. Different from before, and when he looked at me, he didn't seem sorry. It felt like he already knew exactly what was going to happen to us. Even so, we went. Dark path, dense woods, just the sound of our footsteps. Until, in the middle of nowhere, the smell started. Rotten, strong, wrong, and the strangest part was that only I could smell it. If I had stopped right there, if I had gone back, none of that would have happened, but we kept walking. And that was exactly what led us straight to what was waiting at the stream. My grandfather, Mr. Arnaldo, was always one of those men who carry stories in their eyes. It's not just what he says. It's the way he says it. The pause before speaking, the silence in the middle of a sentence, the distant look as if he's still watching it all happen again. And among all the stories he told over the years, there was one that never came with a laugh, and that alone already said a lot. He said it all started when he was still young, 19 years old, working on a farm in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by dense woods and dirt roads. Back then, life was simple, and also harder. The day started early, before the sun even rose, and ended when the body couldn't take it anymore. The man who worked with him was Mr. Casimiro, an older and more experienced man. The kind who knows the forest by its smell and its silence. The two of them had an almost automatic routine. They went to the farm together, came back together, and almost always stopped at the same place. In the middle of the road, there was a small settlement. Few houses, dirt ground, wooden fences, and that typical countryside silence that only broke in the late afternoon. And that's where Mr. Candido's store was. Anyone who has lived in or spent time in a place like that knows the store isn't just a business, it's a meeting point. It's where people arrive tired, sit down, order a drink, and let time pass while they talk. And many times, that's where things begin without anyone noticing. My grandfather and Mr. Casimiro used to stop there almost every day. Always the same ritual: arrive, greet, and rest a bit. Until one of those seemingly normal afternoons, a different man showed up. No one knew him. They said he was working on a more distant farm, on the other side of the region. But even so, there was something about him that didn't fit. It wasn't his clothes or the way he spoke. It was something else. The kind of presence that changes the environment, even when no one can explain why. At first, he stayed quiet, leaning, observing. But it didn't take long for him to start provoking, first with sharp words, then with direct mockery. The target was Mr. Casimiro, for no reason, no explanation. Mr. Candido tried to intervene, as he always did when things got tense, but the man didn't respect him. On the contrary, he shoved him hard and knocked him to the ground without hesitation. The dry sound of the body hitting the ground brought a strange silence over the place. One of those silences that come before something bad. And that's when my grandfather lost control. Without thinking twice, he pulled the knife from his waist and advanced. Pressed the blade against the man's chest, steady, without shaking, said that if he wanted to continue, he wouldn't be walking out of there. For a moment, everything froze completely. But what marked my grandfather the most was the man's reaction. He didn't show fear, even with the blade against his chest. He didn't step back. On the contrary, he held the stare. That wasn't normal. Other men in the store stood up and surrounded him. The situation could have ended right there, and much worse. But the man, realizing he was outnumbered, chose to back off at that moment. He left, got on his horse, but before leaving, he turned and said, "This isn't over. The way he said it. Calm, firm, unhurried. Stuck, because it didn't sound like an empty threat. It sounded like a promise. After that day, everything changed. My grandfather started carrying weapons all the time. A .38 revolver became part of his routine, along with the knife. It wasn't an exaggeration to take it seriously. Days passed, then weeks, and nothing. The man simply disappeared. No one saw him. No one heard anything about him. And slowly, it started to feel like something from the past. But there was one detail that bothered my grandfather. Because when someone threatens you and disappears like that, there are two possibilities. Either they gave up, or they're waiting for the right moment. And that doubt never left his mind, not even for a second. Until, almost 2 months later, with life going back to normal, he and Mr. Casimiro decided to do something simple: go fishing. Nothing too planned, just an end-of-day idea. The place they chose was a known property, owned by a man named Mr. Joe. A quiet piece of land with a good stream full of fish. Surrounded by pasture and thicker woods around it, typical of those regions. But before heading there, they did what they always did. They start only this chimney when they walked in. They came face to face with him. The same man, standing, waiting. At that moment, my grandfather's body reacted before his mind. His hand went straight to the knife. The tension rose instantly. But what happened next made no sense at all in that already tense situation. The man raised his hands, spoke softly, said he didn't want trouble anymore, that he came to apologize. That completely broke the tension. After a few minutes of conversation, things started to calm down. The words got lighter. And in the end, they accepted the apology. Apparently, everything was settled. But as he left the store, my grandfather felt something strange he couldn't explain. Because deep down, something still didn't add up. And it was with that feeling, almost imperceptible, that they continued on their way without knowing that night was already marked. They left as night took over the road. In the country doesn't take on me slowly, it just falls. And when it falls, it seems to swallow everything. Road, fence, trees. Even the sound changes completely. At first, they still tried to keep talking as they always did. They talked about the fishing, laughed about what happened at the store, but it didn't last long because little by little, the silence took over. And it wasn't a normal silence. It was the kind that makes you pay attention without wanting to. You could only hear footsteps on dry ground and, occasionally, the distant sound of some animal in the woods. But even that started to fade. Anyone who has walked on a dirt road at night knows, when the sounds disappear too much, it's not a good sign. Even so, they kept going. The flashlight beams cut only a small piece of the darkness ahead. The rest was completely black, as if hiding anything. And even though it seemed like just another familiar path, that night, everything felt different. Thing. As if the place was the same, but wasn't. After a while, they reached the gate of Mr. Joe's property. They opened it, went through, and shouted that they were heading down to the stream, as usual. From inside the house, the light of a lamp appeared. Mr. Joe opened the door, nodded, and said they could go ahead. But there was one detail before going back inside. He stood still for a few seconds, looking toward the pasture, as if trying to listen to something, and that small gesture, my grandfather only remembered later. They kept going. The pasture was damp, the grass brushing against their legs, and the path to the stream seemed longer than usual. With every step, the sense of isolation grew, as if they were moving away from any kind of safety. When they got there, They did what they always did. Each chose a spot, about 30 meters apart, close enough to talk, far enough to stay in silence. The fishing started well. Bait in the water, a few minutes, and the fish came. That helped distract the mind, for a while, until the first sign came. Without warning, without reason, a strong smell started to rise. Strong, heavy, the smell of something rotten, like carrion. My grandfather grimaced immediately. It was impossible to ignore. It felt like it was right beside him. He called Mr. Casimiro, asked if he could smell it too. The answer came quickly, no. That made no sense, because the smell was too strong, impossible to miss. Even so, my grandfather insisted, asked again, and got the same answer. Nothing. So he left his spot and walked toward the other fishing point, and halfway there, the smell disappeared, completely, as if it had never existed. They stood there in silence for a few seconds, not knowing what to say. The most logical explanation would be a dead animal where he had been before. But there was a problem. Smells don't just vanish like that. Even trying to ignore it, it kept bothering him. Still, they decided to continue, went back to their spots, cast the line again. But the calm was no longer the same. The environment felt different, more frightening, more oppressive. And then came the second sign, a sound, low at first, almost imperceptible, then clearer, louder, a long, dragged howl that cut through the silence of the woods. And completely different from anything they had ever heard. It wasn't a dog, it wasn't a wolf, it wasn't anything normal. It was a sound that felt wrong. Both of them stood up at the same time, without saying a word. They pointed their flashlights toward where the sound had come from, across the stream. And that's when they saw it, standing, still, watching, a creature far too big to be anything normal. Too big to be a dog. The body looked heavy, strange, almost disproportionate, but what really froze them were the eyes. They didn't reflect the light. They glowed, as if they had their own light, two burning orbs, fixed, staring straight at them. And in that moment came the certainty no one wants. That was not a normal animal, nor something that should be there. Neither of them thought about staying, or getting closer, or trying to understand. Instinct took over, and they ran up the pasture in desperation, slipping, stumbling, not looking back. But it didn't matter, because seconds later came the sound, something running after them, heavy, fast, getting closer. And it wasn't imagination. The ground shook with each step. Fear turned into panic. They only stopped when the house appeared ahead. They started shouting, banging on the door, calling for help. When Mr. Joe opened, they were breathless, voiceless, barely able to speak. But they didn't even need to explain, because before they could finish, the howl came again. Closkler, Jean Frusforasicond, slowly turned, looked through the crack of the door, and he grabbed across. His voice came out low, heavy, Hail Mary, and then he said, "It's a werewolf." And at that moment, fear stopped being doubt. It became reality. After Mr. Joe said that, no one doubted anything anymore. The atmosphere inside the house changed instantly. The air felt heavier, harder to breathe. No one needed to say it out loud, but everyone there understood. That wasn't a normal situation. The children had already been taken to the bedroom. His wife was praying softly, almost whispering, as if she was afraid even of the sound of her own voice. Meanwhile, in the living room, there was only one thing to be heard: the footsteps, outside, heavy, dragging at times, fast Archie, others circling the house. And that was what marked my grandfather the most that dark night. Because it didn't seem like a lost animal. It seemed like it was surrounding them. The yard dogs were there, but they didn't attack. They growled, barked, but always backing away. Tails down, bodies tense. Fear. They were afraid. And if even the dogs were acting like that, then whatever was out there was not just anything. Suddenly, the first impact came. A hard bang on the door. Strong, the wood cracked. Everyone flinched. No one said a word. Seconds later, another hit. Stronger. The whole house seemed to shake. And at that moment, it became clear it wasn't trying to get in by chance. It was testing. The attacks continued, hit after hit. Scratches on the wood, as if claws were dragging across the surface, marking, scraping, trying to force a way in. Each sound felt closer and more aggressive. More determined. And with every second, the certainty grew if that door gave in. There would be nowhere to run. Mr. Joe didn't wait any longer. He ran to the storage room and came back with a shotgun, asked if they were armed. My grandfather showed the revolver. Mr. Casimiro confirmed he was ready too. There was no choice. Either they faced it or waited for it to come in. Unwade wasn't an option. They decided to go out through the back, trying to catch the thing by surprise. They opened the door slowly. The creaking sounded too loud in that silence. The darkness outside was almost solid, and the smell, the same as before, rotten, strong, unmistakable, as if death itself was there, standing, waiting. They moved around the house, stepping lightly, trying not to make noise as they advanced. But it didn't matter, because when they turned the corner, they came face to face with it. My grandfather always said that in that moment, he understood he wasn't prepared to see that up close. It was big, much bigger than it had seemed before. The body twisted, disproportionate muscles tense, as if it was always ready to attack. The eyes glowed even brighter now, fixed, right at them. And the worst part, it seemed to recognize them. It was automatic. The shots came almost at the same time. The sound echoed through the night, breaking the silence completely. The creature fell, heavy, but it didn't stay down. It moved. It got back up and charged. The dogs, who had only been barking until then, rushed forward, but they were thrown aside easily. The strength of that thing was absurd. My grandfather felt desperation rise at that moment. It wouldn't stop, wouldn't retreat, didn't seem to feel anything like a normal animal. Until another shot came, closer, more precise. The creature hesitated, and then it screamed. But it wasn't a howl. It wasn't an animal sound. It was a human scream of pain, of rage. And at that exact moment, everything stopped making sense. The creature backed off, took a few steps back before making another move. And then it turned, ran, disappeared into the darkness of the woods, as if it had never been there. The silence returned. But it wasn't the same anymore. No one spoke for a while. Only the sound of heavy breathing and the injured dogs. That night, no Juan slept. The next day, the story had already spread across the farms and the small settlement. Each person added something, changed a detail. But the core remained the same. Something had appeared. And it wasn't normal. But the strangest part came days later, when my grandfather and Mr. Casimiro went to work on another farm. As soon as they arrived, they saw him. The man from the store, sitting, quiet, different, his arm in a sling, injured. They said he had fallen off a horse. But there was one detail that couldn't be ignored. The date. It was the same night, the same time, the exact same moment, and that's when the doubt turned into something much worse. They called him over. He came, greeted them normally, talked as if nothing had happened, but avoided as if he knew it. And then he said that night he had seen a demon on the road. Something big and strange. A large creature, fallen, that got up when he passed by. He said the horse panicked, and he fell. But as he spoke, it didn't convince, because deep down, it felt like he was telling his version to hide something else. After that, he disappeared, left, never showed up again, and the werewolf didn't either. But my grandfather, whenever he finishes this story, goes silent, staring into nothing as if still trying to understand. And then he says that wasn't just an animal. That thing knew exactly who we were, and to this day, he never had any doubt that the two were the same thing. Good night.